Hi, my name is Ashley Hoffman. I'm the Executive Director of the Southeastern Environmental Education Alliance, and today I'm really excited to share with you more about our regional landscape analysis of environmental education in the Southeast. This is an initiative of SEIA whose role is to provide affiliates and stakeholders with capacity building to demonstrate collective impact and magnify our environmental education efforts. SEIA is a collaboration of the state affiliates of the North American Association for Environmental Education, who are located in the Southeast region. There's numerous organizations that are providing high quality environmental education programs across the Southeast, and most of these were being done independently of one another, and historically, little has been done to harness the collective impact of these programs to create large-scale change in each state or throughout the region. And these realities made it difficult to sustain projects in the long term and extend the impact beyond our local communities and organizations. So SEIA has come together to tackle some pretty big questions about the field of environmental education. And in order to do that, we first wanted to better understand the field. We wanted to look at what environmental education looks like on the ground, and how do we work together to strengthen environmental education in the Southeast? And what would a stronger and more inclusive environmental education movement look like? SEIA's role is to serve as a field catalyst. We work behind the scenes to ensure that the boots on the ground have what they need to do their job better. Over the past year, we've been working to better understand how we can accelerate impact. This started with conducting a comprehensive landscape analysis of environmental education efforts in the 8 Southeast states. This project was funded by the National Fish and Wildlife Foundation and the Pisces Foundation, and it will provide environmental education providers with the resources and tools to more effectively meet the needs of their communities. It will help us ensure that we're all focusing our limited time and resources in the areas where we will have the biggest impact. It will provide formal educators with the tools they need to connect with providers in their areas, and it will allow environmental education providers to target their efforts in the areas with the highest need, whether that need is demographic, geographic, or content-based. Today, I'd like to share more about this process and some of our key findings with you to help set the stage for the work ahead. SEIA went through an intensive survey design process and received survey responses from 646 organizations that provide environmental education across the Southeast. And this study brought to light many challenges from our field. Those included the fact that senior staff leadership and audiences served by environmental education providers do not reflect the overall demographics of the region. The average entry-level salary for environmental educators is 15 to 25% lower than comparable fields such as forestry, tourism, and education. And environmental education opportunities at the early childhood and high school level are limited. We also found that the evaluation of environmental education programs was pretty limited and underutilized, and we don't really have any sort of shared measurement system. We found gaps in services across the region, predominantly in rural areas, areas with the highest social vulnerability index, and areas with the lowest income. And few organizations are collecting demographic information that could be used to better understand the research and the impact of our field. But despite all those challenges, we found some pretty great strengths as well. Again, 646 participated in this project across the Southeast states. Those organizations are serving over 2 million youth annually and 16,000 schools. And we have close to 80,000 volunteers. We also asked several questions to better understand some of the field trends. And so I'm going to share some of those results with you. The program themes that were predominant across the region were conservation and outdoor learning. Offerings were predominantly direct teaching, followed by field trips. And the majority of the sector is made up of nonprofits at 46%, followed by government, institutions, and business. The primary audience served is K through 5 students, followed by 6th through 8th grade, and then the general public. The majority of programming is happening during the school day or in the summer. And when evaluation is done, it's predominantly qualitative or informal. And again, there's a lot of organizations that are doing very limited evaluation. We found that less than 50% of programs are collaborating with classroom teachers in the development of those programs, and that the majority of program locations are taking place off the school grounds. We also found that a good number of programs are being correlated to the state standards or to the next generation science standards, but very few are correlated to English language arts or math or other interdisciplinary subjects. When looking at organizational budgets, we found that a significant number of organizations in the environmental education field are operating on a budget of less than $250,000. When we look at BIPOC staff, BIPOC means Black, Indigenous, or person of color. So in a region that is 29% BIPOC, we found that only 7% of full-time staff identify as BIPOC and just 6.5% of senior staff. We also found that just 8.6% of board members in the region identified as BIPOC, again, in a region whose average is 29% of the population. The percentage of Title I participants in programs, we actually found this data was not useful to us other than to highlight that the majority of program providers do not track this information at over 50%. And as with the Title I data, most providers do not track demographics of the students or educators they serve, which rendered this data useless as well. And this has highlighted for us that there's a need to provide more guidance on the value of tracking demographic information, because without this information, we can't truly know if our programs are reaching all audiences. We are very excited about the results of our work and very excited to announce that this year, thanks to funding from Pisces Foundation and the North American Association for Environmental Education, we'll be able to begin phase 2 of this work, which will focus on surveying schools and school districts. I'd also like to take a moment to show you the climate, education, and equity map and our SIA dashboard. So if you navigate to our network map, this is what it looks like when you first arrive. So it's pre-populated with the SIA state boundaries and the environmental education organizations that responded to our survey. If you look over here, we have this this toolbar, and it's grouped into 3 sections: the education, environment, and community. So if you go ahead and click on education, you can see the environmental education organizations layer that we have checked there. And if you hover over any one of these dots, you can learn more about who each of those organizations are. You can also click this arrow and pull up the attribute table, which will show you all of the organizations in that layer in this tab. If you have other tabs checked, it'll show you the attributes for each of those layers. So for this one, we have the different SIA state boundaries highlighted there. And then you can click on public schools, and you can see all of the public schools in the area, or private schools, LEED certified, or colleges and universities. And this is a great tool if you are looking to find schools that are near your environmental education organization, or if you're a school and you're looking to find environmental education providers near you. And again, you can click on those schools and you can see more information about them. If you navigate over to the environment tab, you'll see the different layers grouped here under climate risks, pollutants, energy, and food. And you can scroll through those and turn on any number of layers, such as hurricanes, tornadoes, hazardous wastes, air quality conditions, power plants, or supermarket access. Some of the layers, like this one, work better at a much finer scale, so you may have to zoom in closer to the city level to utilize them. In this layer, we're looking at supermarket access, and the green signifies a 1 mile walking radius around the supermarket, which can help you to look at things like food deserts and how that relates to poverty levels in a city. Certain layers will interfere with other layers. So as you can see here, the CS state boundaries is making it hard to view this layer. So if you navigate over to the community tab under infrastructure, you can uncheck that one and it'll clear it out of your way. We'll go ahead and turn off that tab. And then if we go back over here to community, you can see we've got layers under demographics and equity, health, and infrastructure. If you click the home button, it'll navigate you back out to the regional level. Over here, we can look at things like the social vulnerability index and compare that to where we have environmental education providers. Some of the layers take a little bit more time to load, especially if you're also recording Zoom at the same time. So we'll give that one just a moment to see if it loads there. And while that is trying to load, you can navigate over here to the legend and you can see all the layers that you currently have highlighted, and it'll give you a little bit more information about them. Let's try this one. There it is. So the dark blue indicates the highest social vulnerability indexes. And you can see in a lot of cases that those are the areas where we don't see very many environmental education providers. That's not to say that those areas don't get served, because all we have here is the headquarters for that organization. But given that the majority of offerings were direct teaching and field trips, I think it's safe to assume that it's highly likely that a lot of these areas are going unserved. The number of layers that we pre-populate to the map can slow down the map speed. So we don't have all the layers that we would have loved to have had on here. But if you click over here under add data, you can add any layer that you could possibly want as long as it's available. And so let me just go ahead and turn off the social vulnerability. So if you go over here and you say, I would like to see Tennessee park boundaries, you can search for that. And then when this pops up, you just click add and it'll take you there. And then if you navigate back over here to any of the tabs, it'll show up. And if you click these three dots, you can say zoom to, and it'll take you straight to that layer. So now you can see the park boundaries for Tennessee. So it's a really great feature. You can add legislative districts, you can add public and private lands, forest boundaries, all kinds of great information available there. So we hope that this will be a great tool that educators can use to connect with each other, to better understand their communities, and to identify gaps and barriers that they can work towards addressing. Our Field Trends dashboard is also a great tool that you can use. And if you navigate here, you'll see the dashboard here, or you can click on this tab to look at organizational records. And this is all the organizations that filled out our survey. If you click export here, it'll export it to an Excel file. And if you'd like to just look at the information for your state, you can go over here and select your state, and it'll narrow your records down to just those for your state. Over here, we have program records, which is all the individual programs that organizations submitted as well. So back over here on the dashboard, you can, again, look at the state level data or the regional data just by filtering or not in that tab. And we have some bar graphs here. You can look at those vertically or horizontally. If you find that the text is too small on these vertical ones, then I'd recommend using the horizontal one. So you just click here on the graph and you can navigate to that same chart and it'll display it sideways. And there you'll be able to see the text more clearly. And these are really easy. If you hover over, this toolbar will appear and you can just click download and it'll download that as a PNG file so you can use those charts. And then you can see all kinds of different options for charts that you can pull up. Over here on the pie graphs, you can see all of the different options here. And you can also export those. And then some of our charts, we had a significant number of no responses. So for example, on Title I, we had 53% did not respond to this question. So if you want more accurate data, you can click on Do Not Track in the legend, and it'll remove that data to give you a more accurate depiction of the results there. And then if you want to bring that back, you can just select it again. So there's all kinds of filters over here on the left-hand side that can be used to filter this down to what information you might want. So for example, if you were a classroom teacher in Florida who was looking for environmental education programs in Spanish, you might filter down by those options and then go check out those organizational records so that if you're working with English as a second language students, you can easily pull up programs that would work for your needs. Or maybe you are a Georgia nonprofit who does garden work, and you decided you'd want to see who else in your state might also be doing gardening and food. And so you can look over here on the map and see where they're geographically located. You can find out more about the trends that are specific to those organizations working in gardening and food. And you can pull the organizational records of all the organizations that you might potentially want to partner with. And then if you were, say, a researcher at a university who wanted to better understand, excuse me, who wanted to better understand who was doing climate education in the region, you could filter by those specifics and use that to contact all the organizations in our region who are doing climate education for K through 5 audiences. So lots of different opportunities there to filter down to the data that you might need. And again, we hope that this will be a tool that everyone can use to better understand the trends in the field and to better connect with resources and organizations in our region to help us all work better together. So I'd just like to acknowledge all of the different partners that helped make this project possible. Again, SIA is a collaboration of the 8 Southeast states, so we wouldn't have been able to do the work that we do without the support of each of the state affiliates, as well as the state coordinators. I want to thank my team for their hard work behind the scenes to make this project come together. A big shout out to Vanessa Morell, who served as our strategy consultant on this project and guided us through this process. Thank you to Second Nature Trek, who completed the data analysis for this project, and to EcoRise and the University of Texas for working with us to design the survey and for designing the dashboard and maps. We hope that you'll find the data and trends, as well as the maps, dashboards, and other tools useful in supporting your work, and we really look forward to collaborating with you to continue strengthening the field of environmental education in the Southeast. If you have any questions or need anything, you can reach me at the email listed there and check out more information, including our stakeholder report, videos, tutorials for the maps and dashboard, all on the southeastee.org website. Thank you.